Time now for some real education. Calvin and Hobbes was a comic strip created by cartoonist Bill Watterson, running from 1985 to 1995. Since the end of its run, Calvin and Hobbes has garnered artistic, academic, and philosophical interest. The strip chronicles the antics of Calvin, a mischievous 6-year-old boy, and Hobbes, his animated stuffed tiger. Though the series does not frequently mention specific political figures or contemporary events, it does explore broad issues like environmentalism and public education. At the height of its popularity, Calvin and Hobbes was featured in over 2,400 newspapers worldwide.
Yeah, this is a beautiful cartoon. I mean, it's often considered to be the end of the great classic era of cartoons that started, that Schultz was and Peanuts was a part of. In fact, I would rate Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes 1A and 1B in terms of, and you know how much I love Peanuts, in terms of they're transcendent. They do with comic strip forms things that it would take other people novels, if not encyclopedias, to accomplish. And go to the picture. There's of Watterson. There's our author there on the left. And the thing about him that's so remarkable is he did 10 years of his comic strip, then quit. And never once did he allow his characters to be monetized. Schultz having been dead for now 22 years. I think Schultz has been dead 22 years now. He is still one of the top 10 money makers, even after having been dead, because of the way that all of the Peanuts characters were marketed. Used for commercials, used for TV, voiceovers, selling products, stuffed animals, all that stuff, greeting cards. Watterson, who could have made billions of dollars after his creation, refused to monetize or to in any way, shape, or form commercialize what he had done. Absolutely remarkable. And while there's so much to talk about in Calvin and Hobbes, I actually taught Calvin and Hobbes in a freshman writing seminar once, learning how to write through Calvin and Hobbes. It was very interesting. The one aspect of Calvin and Hobbes I want to talk about in this instant classic is how ahead of his time Watterson was with regards to educational issues. Many of his cartoon strips dealt with education. Let's take a look at some of them. There you have Calvin sitting at his desk, and here's the question on his exam. Explain Newton's first law of motion in your own words. Exclamation point. Calvin has an idea. And look at the expressiveness of the characters, right? The character. And then he starts to write gibberish. And then he says to the audience, I love loopholes. And go back to the opening panel, right? In your own words. Calvin takes that to mean his own new invented language. And if the teacher comes back to him and says, hey, I'm going to have to fail you on this, he could technically say, that's my language, I spoke it. And how much more would he get away with that in the progressive school systems we now have than what happened in the 1980s? Go to the next one. There he is at that test again. And the question is, when did the Pilgrims land Plymouth Rock? Highly important to what's going on in the world at 1620, right? And then he follows the right answer, the rare right answer that Calvin ever got in school. He followed it up with a little essay. As you can see, I've memorized this utterly useless fact long enough to pass a test question I now intend to forget forever. You've taught me nothing except how to cynically manipulate the system. Congratulations. And then he addresses us, right? They say that the satisfaction of teaching makes up for the lousy pay, right? Go to the next one. Here you have Calvin then and his pet tiger. I don't think math is a science, it's a religion. A religion? Yeah, all of these equations are like miracles. You take two numbers, and when you add them, they magically become one new number. No one can say how it happens, and you either believe it or you don't. And the tiger is puzzled, right? Calvin goes on, this whole book is full of things that have to be accepted on faith. It's a religion. And the tiger says, and in the public schools of all things, call a lawyer. Calvin closes by saying, as a math atheist, I should be excluded from this, right? And there's a lot of truth to this. When you think about how now the argument that you're getting from educrats that 2 + 2 is 5, right? That math is empiricist white supremacy, that math is only what you say it is. This cartoon was really ahead of its time. Give me one more. Here's the dad, Calvin's dad, ever frustrated. Okay, Calvin, let's check over your math homework. Let's not and say we did. Your teacher says you need to spend more time on math. Have a seat. More time? I already spent 10 whole minutes. 10 whole minutes. Wasted. Down the drain. Dad says, you've written here 8 + 4 = 7. Now you know that's not right. So I was off a little bit. Sue me. You can't add things and come out with less than you started with. I can do that. It's a free country. I've got my rights. And the final one? Here they are walking through the snow. This is Schultz and Watterson. did the best snow scenes, right? They just were so good at portraying snow. How are you doing on your New Year's resolutions? The tiger asked the boy. I didn't make any, Calvin said. See, in order to improve oneself, one must have some idea of what's good. That implies certain values. But as we all know, values are relative. Every system of belief is equally valid, and we need to tolerate diversity. Virtue isn't better than vice, it's just different. How freaking prescient is this? At which point the tiger responds, I don't know if I can tolerate that much tolerance. The kid says, I refuse to be victimized by your notions of virtuous behavior. Do you need any more than those 4 panels to sum up the postmodern destruction of our culture? God bless Calvin and Hobbes.